Hey everybody, I am back in the kitchen and it seems like it has been forever since I did a video. In fact, it's actually been 4 months since I did a video and life happens out of your control, but you get over it, roll with the punches, and here I am back in the kitchen with you. And I'm not actually going to be showing you how to prepare a meal. I'm going to show you how to preserve some potatoes. We're going to can potatoes. And we're going to use this Presto pressure canner. You have got to use a pressure canner, people, when you are going to be canning or preserving low acidic foods. Take a potato, for instance. It is very low in acid. If you had a tomato, well, a tomato is very high in acid. That means that it is able to be preserved via the water bath method, but not the humble potato. You got to cook the fool out of him. And it's just because it's a dense product with low acid. It's hard to preserve it. It's hard to keep it to where it'll be edible down the road unless you do it the right way. And this is going to be the right way. Now listen, I don't work for the FDA, the Food and Drug, whatever. I'm just a home canner. I have done this many times. I have used these items over and over again, and I get a good product every time. So if you're watching this video and you do it a different way, well, congratulations. I did not invent the wheel. This is not something that I invented. I just know that when I process potatoes, this way works every time. And I think you'll find that it's easy. I hope that I explained it in an easy manner. And I don't want you to be intimidated with the whole home preserving process. That's kind of the point of this video. I want you to be comfortable pressure canning. I mean, it's intimidating. Some people are scared to death. They'll go out and they'll buy this fancy new pressure canner, but they won't use it because they're like, oh my God, it's going to blow up in my house. It's not going to blow up in your house. It's not. If you're going to do it the right way, it's going to be fine. We're going to do it the way that the manufacturer suggests, and it's going to be just fine. I promise. So, all I've got is my Presto 23 quart pressure canner. I have got some pint-sized jars. I like the wide mouth. I have got rings and lids. I've got some salt. For this little exercise, we're going to be using kosher salt. If you go to the store, you can buy canning salt, you can buy pickling salt, or you can buy kosher salt. Don't use table salt. Table salt has iodine in it, and iodine is not something that is really good for preserving food. It inhibits food preservation. So don't use table salt. We got to use something that doesn't have iodine. I like to use kosher salt. Now it does have the addition of an anti-caking additive, which some people don't want to use. That's why they use the canning or the pickling salt, because those don't have any anti-caking agent. But I use this just in regular cooking, and I don't want to have different kinds of salts on hand. I like to use this because it works, it's easy, and there you go. That's my reasoning. I mean, it's not scientific, but I mean, it works. What else? Oh, potatoes. I got some potatoes here. Now, it does make a difference on what potato you use. You can use new potatoes, which are the little red skin potatoes, but you have to peel them. Or you can use a white potato. Those are the things that are suggested. These are all low starch potatoes. Well, no, actually, they're high starch potatoes. That's what we want. If you use a russet or if you use a Idaho potato, those are more for baking, and they have a fluffy interior. When it's cooked, it'll fall apart if you try to pressure can those potatoes. So we're going to stick with white potato. And when I say white potato, it says it on the bag, white potato. Don't use Yukon Gold. Don't use a gold potato, because like I said, it'll fall apart on you. If you want to keep potatoes, if you want them to keep their, shape, use white potatoes. If it doesn't matter to you if they fall apart in the jar, Well, then, just can what you got. I mean, mother necessity. There you go. You do what you got. So, I'm doing the cold pack method. Now, the Ball Canning book, which is usually the Canner's Bible, and, well, even the little book that came with my Presto Canner tell you that you need to hot pack potatoes. I'm going to break the rule because I think that with certain foods, you can go against regulations because I know it works. And I feel comfortable serving potatoes that are preserved this way to my family. And I ain't killed anybody yet. But if you're freaked out about it and you don't want to, well then by all means, do the hot pack method. This is just easy. If you start cold through the process, it's fine. We don't want to have a big fluctuation in temperature. That's why I'm not going to use the hot pack method, because it's easy to keep everything nice and cold. Whereas if you're doing hot pack method, you got to make sure your water's heated up before the jars go in. The jars have to be hot. Blah, blah, blah. I don't have time for that. We're going to do it the fast way, cold pack, because I said so. Okay, so I have my lovely canner here that I'm going to, remember, put your gasket on the canner. You got to have it, because that's what allows for a good seal to happen. Also, look at your altitude wherever you live. For where I live in Georgia, it requires 10 or 11 pounds per square inch of pressure to can these potatoes properly. So this is an 11-pound weight. I got it from my sister. And that's what I'm going to put on this little thing here. And that's going to regulate the pressure inside. It's going to rock so that when it heats up and it comes to temperature inside, any excess steam that's created that's not needed to hold pressure of 11 pounds is going to escape through the vent and make it kind of go. And that's what we want. So I'm going to set this aside for this second. And I'm going to set my pot over here on the stove because that's what I'm going to use. I don't have any water in it yet, but I am going to go ahead and put my water in. Now, generally speaking, for a pressure canner of this size, well, for any size really, you want to start with 3 quarts of water. So I'm going to pour my water in. I'll get it back over here so you can see. Now, a pint is equal to 2 quarts. So if I want to have 3 quarts of water, I'm going to have to use 6 of these. So fill it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Almost had 6 on the dot. Dang it. Oh, the best laid plans. Anyway, here we go. So that is 3 quarts of water. Cold water. And I'm going to put it over here. Shazam. Okay, now what I'm going to do, take my rings and set them over here. Got my caps. And I am not heating these up. In the hot pack method, you would put these in a bucket of hot water and let the rubber gasket heat up. You don't have to. You don't have to. Here's my jar. I got this little funnel thing. It just helps keep potatoes from flying all over the place. So I'm going to fill each of these jars, leaving 1 inch of head space. Head space is simply space in the jar so that it can let steam out as it cooks. Because we're cooking under pressure, and the pressure inside the jar is going to be higher than the pressure outside the jar. I know it's science, I'm sorry. Anyway, that extra steam is going to escape out from under this lid, because we're not going to seal it up super duper tight. We're just going to turn it until it's firm and catches. So I'll explain as we go along. So I'm just going to put potatoes in these jars. I've got my little handy dandy thing, and I'll keep talking because you know me. I cut these into little cubes, I guess is what you call them. I don't really need that. You could keep them in bigger pieces if you wanted to. I just like this size because they're pretty much a utilitarian size. Anything that I want to cook or fix for dinner, these things are perfect size for it. So, I mean, if I was going to do a hash, these are great size. If I'm going to do mashed potatoes, well, it doesn't matter what size they are because they're going to get soft enough in here that when we blend them up with our mixer, they're just going to mash up beautifully. What else? You do have to peel them though, and that is pretty much where your time is invested, because it took me a while. This was 10 pounds of white potatoes, and well, I peeled them because it's always peel potatoes, simply because the skin is porous. It has, tiny little holes in it. And well, nasty things can live in the skin of a potato. And I mean, you could get really sick if your canning process is not tried and tested and true. So I'm gonna use my hands. I would just suggest that you always peel your potatoes. I mean, I'm sure there's somebody out there that's going to say, Jamie, you're just being overly cautious. Well, yeah, I'm being overly cautious because I don't want to kill somebody with a jar of potatoes. Anyway, peel them. It won't kill you. Just sit there and peel them. So I'm putting them in, but I am leaving, at least an inch up top, because we don't have to pack them in. These are going to cook up nice and firm to the touch, but you will be able to see that it is cooked all the way through when you open it and smash one, because it mashes down lovely. You could even, I saw a lady, she made French fries this way. She cut her potatoes into sticks, and then she processed them, and then she took them out and she leaked all the water off of them, and she fried them. And they were beautiful French fries. I mean, I've never tried it, but I thought, why not? It'll work. So I might give that a whirl at some point. But anyway, here we go. We're almost done packing these potatoes. Now people are like, why do you want to can potatoes? Well, because it's so easy to go down into the pantry and grab a can of potatoes off the shelf and put together a quick dinner. I mean, you can make a quick soup with these, because potatoes, like carrots, they take a long time to cook unless you just cut them up into nothing. So I like fast, I like easy, and I like immediate gratification. Dang it, I don't want to wait. So, I mean, if you are like that, well then you're going to love having canned potatoes in your pantry, because it's quick. I know, we all need to slow down a little bit, but dang it, it's hard. I got stuff to do. I don't want to take all day in the kitchen preserving potatoes. So anyway, whatever. I mean, I love being in the kitchen. It is my favorite place to be, but I do have things to do in my life, so gotta make it happen. All right, here are my sweet little jars of potatoes. For this jar, this is a pint. The amount of salt that I'm going to use is half a teaspoon. I find if you use more than half a teaspoon, it's so salty you can't stand it. And, well, then you're just wasting your effort by making something that's inedible. So I'm just going to go, look at this. I'm not really measuring it exactly, but I know that this is a good amount of salt that's going in. If you wanted to put other seasonings in, like if you wanted to put in a little garlic powder, or if you wanted to do a little onion powder, I mean, you could even, well, I mean, you could put bouillon in if you want to, like a chicken bouillon. You could put a little bit of that in just for a different flavor. Mine's just going to be plain, because that way I can use it for whatever I want to, and then I can add seasonings as I'm cooking with them. So, let's get ready for the water. I'm going to fill these jars up, leaving the headspace. I'm not going to fill them all the way up to the top. So, here goes. I'm not even going to cover them completely. See that? I might be doing a little too much. I might have to take out a little water. Yeah, that one too. I just put too much in, dang it. But it's all good. If you're interested, you can look and see other videos that I've done on home canning. I did a series on instructional videos of how to can chicken, and it got a lot of hits on Facebook. People were so interested, and that really is what provoked me doing this particular video, because, I mean, people have the desire to learn. They want to learn how to do this. This is a dying art. This is something that your granny did out of necessity. And I'm telling you what, folks, these days you don't know what's going to happen next week, so you better plan ahead. You know what I mean? Anyway, just safety first, you know, just don't be stupid. So, I've almost got this done. And next I'm going to wipe the top of the lids off. Oh snap, I got too much in him. Alright. Put my water down. I'm going to pour off a little bit of this guy. So I got a little too happy with the water. So just go back over and mush them down, and anyone that's got too much, just pour it off. It's not the end of the world. Y'all are going to love this. I know you will. And no, you cannot use your pressure cooker to do this. You've got to have an actual pressure canner. There is a huge difference. A pressure cooker is geared toward cooking individual meals, like a pot roast, or doing stew beef, or things like that. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. I just want to go and kind of wipe the lids off. Make sure there's no salt on the lid that would inhibit the seal. So you always want to try to be as clean as possible in your canning. That way, it'll always turn out right. Trust me, I've had jelly not sealed because I forgot to wipe the rim on one or two. Big mistake. Now, if these potatoes were in bigger pieces, I might not have to do this because there wouldn't be many pockets for things to get air trapped. But I use this little plastic thing that came in my canning kit, and I'm just going down the side of the jar, just releasing whatever air might be inside trapped, because we don't want any air to be inside our jar. We want it to be airtight, and that's what's going to give it the ability to be shelf stable after they've cooked in the pressure canner. Just going through, and I think that's good. Alright, everybody's locked off, and now this is just how you do it. It's the cold pack method. These are wide mouth pint lids that I'm putting on. Everybody gets a little hat. And that's all she wrote. Now I'm going to take my ring. Now watch. Like I said, we're not going to put these crank down tight because you don't need to, and that it'll mess up your outcome. We're going to put it on, find the thread, and just one little turn till it catches. And that's it. Leave it alone. Don't wrench it down just because you can. One turn, that's it. Boom, there it caught. Basically, you're just listening for it. You're listening and you're feeling for it. There it caught. Now, these are going in my pressure canner. Now, you saw that I put the water inside my pressure canner till it, well, there's an actual fill line that I've used this so often that it knows that the water has made a little line as it has oxidized. So I know exactly the right amount, even if I don't have a measuring quart. This is a necessity. You got to put this in at the bottom because it's going to keep your glass jars from actually touching the bottom, because there's a lot of pressure in there and there's a lot of jiggling around going on when these things are dancing together, and you're liable to smack each other hard if there's not some kind of a cushion point, and that's what that base is. So going in. One more ring for that sucker. I don't think I have another ring up here. So I can fit 2, 4, 6, 7 pints in this pressure canner on the bottom. I have this wonderful little rack separator. Put it in just to separate the jars. And put the rest in. Now remember, with a pressure canner, we're cooking with steam. We're not using boiling water in direct contact with the jar to cook it. We're using steam to cook. Therefore, the water doesn't have to cover the jar. The water on the bottom of the pressure canner comes up about that far on that bottom level of jars, and that's fine because this is allowing steam to build up in the rest of this pressure canner, and it's weighing down on these jars, and it is making the interior atmospheric pressure high, and it is cooking them, and it's sealing them, and it's preserving them just the way it's supposed to. So, let me find another. It's going on one turn, and it's tight enough. And here's the last one. So, that's 14 pints that I can fit into my 23-quart pressure canner. So, on part. Take my lid, and I'm going to put it on, line up the V. I've got a little V mark here, a little V mark on the bottom, and I'm going to close it. Now I'm going to turn it on. It's going to take a few minutes for this to heat up because everything inside is cold. I had those potatoes in water overnight because I peeled them yesterday, and I put some ascorbic acid in there, which was basically fruit fresh. You can buy it at the grocery store on the canning aisle. I put just like a heaping teaspoon in with that lot of potatoes just to keep them from turning brown, because if you've noticed, when you peel potatoes and you leave them sitting on the counter, they turn brown and it's gross, and we don't want our potatoes to look ugly when they're cooked. We want it to be pretty. At least I do. So, anyway, I've turned this heat on, and here's what we're waiting for. We want it to come to a boil. The way we know that it's come to a boil is because you're going to see steam exiting from this port. That's good. We're going to time the steam exiting the port for 10 minutes. That's simply flushing the canner. You might think it's not an important step, but it's wasting your time. I beg to differ. This is something that you need to do because the manufacturer of the canner suggests it, and it's just smart to follow the rules in this instance. So we're going to let it come to a boil. We're going to let steam come out of this port for 10 minutes. I'm going to time it. And when the steam comes out, and after 10 minutes, then it's safe for me to put my toggle on, my weighted toggle. I'll stick him on like that. And then we're going to let pressure build until we're at 11 pounds. And then I can let this cook for 30 minutes. If I were using quarts, I'd have to let them go for 40 minutes. But white potatoes in pints cook for 30 minutes at 11 pounds pressure. And easy peasy, y'all. So I'll be back and let you see it when the steam starts rolling, okay? Okay, as you can see and hear, you hear the hiss. The pressure canner has gotten to the point to where the water is boiling hot and everything inside is hot, so that it's allowing this vent of steam. You see the steam coming out? It's hot, so don't put your hand down there. You can feel it up here and it won't burn you, but if you would put your hand over that, thanks, you'd have a burn. So we're going to set a timer for 10 minutes and let this vent just like this for 10 minutes. And after the 10-minute mark, I'm going to stick my weight toggle on the vent port there, and then we can start building pressure. So 10 minutes. Okay, there goes the timer. So let me cut it off. Timer off. And now I'm going to stick very carefully this weight on top of the vent. Now you don't hear it any longer coming out. So it's sealing up. So what we do now, I turn the heat down because it doesn't need to be, I had it on high to get things moving at the beginning, but you don't need to have it on high all the way through because that's too much pressure. It's creating too hot of an atmosphere. So I've turned it down to about medium, maybe even a little less than medium. And we're going to bring this temperature gauge. Well, actually, it's not a temperature gauge. We're going to bring this pressure gauge up to 11. Now, I was reading in the book during the heating up period, and I told you wrong when I said it would be 30 minutes. It's actually going to be 35 minutes for pints and 40 for quarts. So I got the quarts right, but I was 5 minutes off on the processing time for the pints. So 35 minutes for pints, 40 minutes for quarts at 11 psi. Shazam. You take it off the heat and let things cool off, and then you can take your potatoes out and we'll take a look at them. So we're going to let this come to temperature. As soon as it gets to 11 pounds of pressure, I'm going to set the timer for 35 minutes, let it cook, and then I'll be back. Okay, so it's up to 11 pounds of pressure, and you can see the toggle slightly shifting back and forth. That means it's letting out any excess steam that it doesn't need to hold that constant 11 pounds of pressure. I'm going to set my timer for 35 minutes, and as soon as the button goes off, as soon as the timer goes off, it'll be ready to remove from the heat. And then we let it cool down naturally. We do not take the toggle off until the pressure gauge reads 0. Okay, folks? Do not touch the toggle until we're at 0. Be back. Okay, y'all, it's time for the big reveal. So I let the pressure cooker cook for 35 minutes, like I told you, at 11 pounds of pressure per square inch. And when my buzzer went off, I removed it from the heat and I let the pressure drop naturally. It took it about 30 minutes for it to get down to 0 pressure. And when I removed this toggle, there's no steam escaping at pressure, so we're good to go. So I am going to pop this top off. And there's no resistance. And that tells me that there's zero pressure in there. Whew! It is smoking. Put that somewhere out of the way because it is hot to the touch. All right, here goes. I'm taking out these lovely pints of potatoes. I suggest you invest in one of these handy jar grabbers. They will save your fingertips, trust me. Ooh, I grabbed him a little too hard. You don't have to grab them hard at all. Just grab them enough to hang on to them and pull them out. Now, these are going to sit here on my counter and come all the way down to room temperature. And I'm hoping that all the lids seal. And then I'll be able to label them. And I'll be able to put them in the pantry. And then I'll have these potatoes for whenever the need arises. And it's such a wonderful thing to be able to walk into the pantry and just grab a can of these because they're perfectly cooked, they're ready to go, and they're even seasoned a little bit with salt, so can't go wrong. All right, that was the top layer. Going to go after the second layer. I know that this video has been pretty lengthy, but it's an instructional video. I want to make sure you have all the information that you need because I want you to do it the right way. I don't want you to get sick, and I don't want you to make anybody else sick if you happen to share this with another person. It's wordy. I talk a lot in it. What are you going to do? I got a lot to say. But you will be able to see a printed out version of the process over at JamieTeachMeToCook.com. On my blog, I will have a whole post about processing these potatoes. And I'll have temperatures. I'll have basically the whole process, step by step by step, over at my blog. So do come visit me at JamieTeachMeToCook.com. You can visit me on Facebook at JamieTeachMeToCook. You can visit me on Pinterest. You can follow me on Instagram. I hope that you follow me everywhere that I have a social media presence because that would just make my day. Thank you. And if you found the video at all helpful or informative, I wish you'd give me a thumbs up and a subscribe. Hit that subscribe button because it does make a difference and it helps build my Facebook following. It helps build my YouTube following. And that's why I'm in this game. I want to help people be able to help themselves when it comes to food preservation or just cooking a meal for your family. And I guess that's about all I've got for you for today. I have enjoyed being back in the kitchen and I hope to see you next time. Bye, y'all.